It is officially release day. Happy release day. I'm so excited about this being release day. This book is now out into the world and I could obviously not be more excited about it. This book is about a girl and her little brother goes missing and she decides that she is going to do everything that she can to find him. And when she is looking for him, a girl in her school, who's kind of a weird, kind of creepy girl, comes up to her and says that she knows where this girl's little brother is and that a ghost told her where he is. So then she has to decide whether she's going to believe the creepy girl at school and whether she's going to believe that ghosts are real, and she goes on this really weird, kind of creepy, supernatural adventure to try to find her missing brother. This book is the first book in a series, and I'm so excited that I can finally share it with you. I'm excited that it is up on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all of these other retailers, so if you are interested in picking up a copy, today is the day, finally! So to celebrate release day, I'm doing a live stream later on today where I'm going to be answering questions about the book, talking about the book, giving some behind the scenes tea about the book, playing some games with you. It's gonna be fun. It'll be like a little party celebration type thing. And then today, in this video, I thought that I would make a video sharing 10 things that you didn't know about They Stay. I'm gonna take you behind the scenes and share with you a little bit about the development of the book and some kind of fun facts about my book baby that is now born. Gross. I'm gonna get better at my jokes. So for those of you who are new to the channel, if this is the first video of mine that you're watching, hello, welcome, I'm so happy that you're here. My name is Fraise, and I'm an award-winning young adult author who posts videos on this channel sharing the actionable writing tips that helped me make my own writing better. I write young adult thrillers and spooky books with ghosts in them, so if you're interested in giving my book a look, all of the links are in the description to buy the book, and also if you are looking at getting some writing advice, all of my other videos are on my channel page. Fun fact number 1. I wrote the first draft of this book for NaNoWriMo in 2017. Well, it technically wasn't exactly the first draft of the book, but it was the first draft of what would eventually become the book. It was just basically an entirely different story. The book I wrote for NaNoWriMo told the story of a formerly homeschooled girl who moved to a small fishing village in Maine with her grandfather, and when she started public school there, because she was really insistent on starting public school because she didn't want to miss out on the teenage experiences, she discovers that a local boy who used to go to the high school, like a 15-year-old, had recently gone missing. And she just becomes kind of obsessed and fascinated with this case because people don't really know that much. So she enlists the help of the nerdy good guy Miles and the rebellious bad boy Jonah to try and solve this mystery of the missing teenager in the town, and they go on the most wild, crazy, zany adventure I've ever come up with in my entire life. Just off the top of my head, this book had 5 deaths, a ritual sacrifice, gang violence, weird secret societies where they like wrote poetry off the top of their heads, little house fires, apartment fires, motel fires, grandfathers who murdered people, and this random pregnant girl who didn't associate much with any of the other characters in the book and didn't talk to anybody until the very end, where it was revealed that she can talk to ghosts and she had solved the entire mystery of the missing kid before any of the other 3 incompetent kids could. The manuscript was 101,000 words long, so it was too long for the story that it told, and I tucked it away pretty much immediately into the back of one of my Dropbox folders because I don't like throwing anything away, even if it is really bad, but I was set on nobody ever seeing that story again because I was so ridiculously embarrassed. But for some reason, over the next 2 years, those main 4 characters really stayed in my head. I kept coming back to thinking about the girl who moved to the new town, and Miles, and Jonah, and that girl who could see ghosts. I knew that they had a story that they wanted to tell, I just didn't know what the story quite was yet. So one day I went and I revisited that book, and I tried to figure out what was wrong with it. So after I dialed down the drama, I made the kid who went missing Shiloh's younger brother and not this random kid in town, and I made the girl who could see ghosts a much bigger part of the plot. They Stay was born. Second fun fact, there is one point where I wanted to make They Stay a horror book. I was workshopping this book with my fiction writing professor in college, and there was something missing from it. I didn't really know what it was, and he suggested that maybe the thing that was missing was that these ghosts were not scary. He said that maybe if I dialed up the horror factor, that the book would come to life more. Right now, it was falling flat as a piece of horror. So I had no idea how to write horror. I hadn't read or watched that much horror before. So during my whole sophomore year of college, I did this deep dive into horror, and I started watching horror and reading horror, and I scared myself so much that I started getting nightmares every single night. And it wasn't until I stopped watching horror, I had a bit of a horror detox, that I stopped having the nightmares because it was actually impacting my sleep. And because of this, I told my professor what was happening, and he was like, yeah, maybe you don't watch as much horror. Maybe there's another way that we can work around that and find a way to still bring the story to life without it relying on horror. In that same meeting, he challenged me to ask myself what I thought would happen if the expectations were inverted, and instead of the ghost being a source of horror, they became a source of comfort, and the source of horror in the book came from outside factors. This really sparked the whole concept of what is now They Stay. Like, all the supernatural elements in the book, this is really not a spoiler, are not the sources of the horror, but the things that the humans do to each other are the sources of horror. 3, I spent a year living in the county that I based the fictional York County off of. I spent my freshman year of college studying at Kenyon College, which is a small liberal arts school in the middle of rural Ohio, and it was that experience that planted this seed of an idea in my brain and made me want to set this book here. The inspiration for Bethany and York County and the surrounding towns came from my experience living in Knox County in Ohio for a year. So in case you were wondering, that's where the whole location is based off of. 4, during that year, I spent a lot of time researching, talking to law enforcement officers, talking to community organizers, and joining task forces that were dedicated to helping those affected by the opioid epidemic in that part of Ohio. I wrote investigative journalism pieces for the magazine at Kenyon that year, and one of the pieces that I co-authored was about the opioid epidemic in the county. If you're interested in reading it, I linked it in the description of this video, but while I was writing that article, I spent a lot of time talking to people about the ways that the opioid epidemic is affecting people and themselves in the county, and also especially children in the county. In this article, my co-author and I wrote, this is going to be a quote from the article, "The Public Children's Services Association of Ohio reports that 28% of children in Ohio taken into custody in 2015, as well as 70% of children under the age of 1, had parents who were using opiates. In They Stay, I have multiple characters who have parents who have struggled with opioid addiction, and that is something that really stemmed from my time studying at Kenyon. Some of the things that happen to the kids in They Stay and that are mentioned, and also some of the locations, for example, the tent city that the kids visit in They Stay is based on one that was in one of the towns right near where I was studying. So I knew about it, and I talked to a nonprofit organizer who ran a nonprofit right next to where that tent city was. So all of this was very closely drawn from my experiences researching this piece. 5, during that same year, I was a peer mentor for kids in the foster care system. I was a volunteer for the National Alliance of Mental Illness, or NAMI, my freshman year of college, and through that program, I was able to mentor kids who were in the foster care system and also in juvenile detention. Not only did this experience allow me to meet some really amazing kids, but it also taught me a lot about how the foster care system is structured in this country and what it's really like for a kid from their perspective to be in it. Like, what kind of relationships they have with their foster parents, what kind of relationship they have with their parents. I talked a lot with the foster parents of the kids that I mentored, and so I learned a lot about their relationships and the experiences that they've had in the system. And so I pulled from a lot of that experience and knowledge that I had through doing that in order to create Jonah's character in They Stay. The foster parents who I had the pleasure of meeting through this volunteer experience were truly wonderful, amazing, super caring people that just really, really cared about their foster kids. And they are the sources of inspiration for Jonah's nurturing and caring and sometimes a little bit strict foster mom in They Stay. 6, Shiloh's protective instinct over her little brother is mirrored after my own. I have a little brother. He's just the best. If he went missing, it's probably the worst thing that I could possibly imagine ever happening to me ever. So that fear was really what I tapped into when creating the driving heart of this story. 7, I drew a little bit of inspiration from the Clockwork Angel when figuring out the dynamics of the relationship between Shiloh, Miles, and Jonah. The Infernal Devices series has been my favorite young adult series of all time for a very long time. And I've never been as invested in any other relationship dynamic other than the ones that I write in my own stories compared to how invested I was in Tessa, Will, and Jem. I used to have this t-shirt that said, like, I love Jem Carstairs, get over it, and I would wear it all the time in middle school. I just really loved how the relationship between the three of them was not a standard love triangle, and that it was a really complicated love triangle, and that you know, they all loved each other. It wasn't just like, oh, how will I ever choose between this man and this man who are both basically identical? So I pulled some inspiration from that complicated love triangle dynamic when I was writing about Shiloh, Miles, and Jonah, even though their relationship has become super different and the resolution is different and a lot of stuff about the way that it develops is different. So even though the initial idea came from that, it has ended up being an entirely different product. No spoilers, but I have some big plans for these three. My 8th fun fact is that this book was almost written in third-person past tense. Up until the second draft, They Stay was in third-person past tense. I decided I wanted to do a tense change after I sent the book to beta readers, and I was getting some feedback that they didn't feel as though the writing really helped bring you into the scene with the characters, and it didn't feel like as present. It felt like a little bit too telly and not showy enough. So I decided to do a tense change and really play to my strengths because I feel the most confident when I'm writing in first person present tense, even though I wanted to experiment with what it would be like to write in third person past tense. And I'm really glad that I made that change. For whatever reason, my writing just is a lot more grounded when I'm writing in first person present tense because it automatically forces me not to be able to foreshadow anything, to be able to tell anything. Everything has to be exactly what that character knows right then and there, so it makes it more exciting, in my opinion at least. My 9th fun fact about They Stay is that I honestly don't know if I believe in ghosts. I don't know why I love writing about ghosts so much. I don't even know if I believe in them. In this book in particular, I just love the way that the ghosts are not actually the enemy and that they are Francesca's comfort zone and her friends and almost like her family, and she feels way safer with these ghosts than she does with any of the other people in that town. And I don't know, I think that there's something kind of cool about the source of the horror being the things that humans do to each other instead of being afraid of the ghost maybe, you know, haunting your house. There's a lot of physical and mental domestic abuse in this book and also a lot of bullying. And that stuff to me is way scarier than any ghost that could be haunting your house. And my 10th fun fact is that I can see ghosts, just like Francesca. Obviously, I'm just kidding on that one. I can't actually see ghosts, but it'd be pretty cool if I could. Although actually, I don't know, that would be kind of scary. Maybe. It depends on the ghosts. It depends if the world is the world that I built it as in They Stay, or if it's a different world where ghosts are scarier. I don't know. Gotta think about that one. So that's it on this video about 10 things that you didn't know about They Stay. I am so happy that this book is finally released and out there on all of the major retailers. If you are interested in giving it a read, go follow all the links below to order the book. I am so excited to finally be able to put it out into the world. If you've been following my channel for a while, thank you from the bottom of my heart for sticking with me and following me on my journey towards publishing this book. I am so grateful for every single one of you. Thank you. And if you're available, come join me at my live stream tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where we will celebrate this book and we will talk about our favorite tropes and we will play games, and it's going to be super fun, and I hope to see you there. Happy release day!